Good afternoon, Stampers. It's Debbie with Stamp It with Debbie, and I'm here live again. I'm just a few minutes early, and I'm going to try to get everything set up so we can get started with our live projects today. If you're on, if you just leave me a comment, let me know you're here. I would appreciate it. All right, just getting everything set up. Just give me just a few minutes. It takes a little bit. I have to not only, I record through my phone, and then I need to have my iPad set up so I can see what you're seeing because my camera is set up. So I always like to make sure that I'm having everything in the screen that you can see. So I think we'll just give it a few minutes to make sure that everyone's on that wants to join us today. Hoping that your weather is good today. Here in Florida, it's hot, very hot. I forgot to look at the temperature, but it's feels like temperature around 102. I know a lot of places around the United States have been very hot lately. It's too hot for me. I need fall to be here in Michigan. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. And again, if you'll just leave a comment, and if you had any questions or anything, I'll respond to those once the video is over. As soon as the video is complete, I work right away to get it up on my blog with the measurements that you will need for each of the items that we create today. And a replay of the video will be on the Facebook and over on my blog. There are just a few things that I want to let you know today, some updates. Stampin' Up! Is offering bonus days. So in August, for every $50 you spend, you will get a $5 coupon emailed directly to you to spend in September. And that's for any amount. It's not, you don't have to spend a certain amount to spend that $5. Also, up until August 10th, you can subscribe. If you have not ever subscribed to Paper Pumpkin before, you can get it for 50% off. That's a great way to get a kit sent right to your door every single month. Normal price will go back up for the following month, but your first month is 50% off. So if you don't love it, but I know you're going to, you can cancel at that time and your credit card won't be charged. I'm also going to leave a link in my Facebook groups for signing up for the Paper Pumpkin. I think it's a really great way, like I said, to get a fun kit sent right to you every single month. And it has instructions, it'll have a stamp set, all the paper products you need. All you're going to need is adhesive. So I think that's it for announcements. Also, I wanted to let you know that every week during my Facebook Live, I'm going to have a hostess code. If you place an order by the following Tuesday before Facebook Live goes live the next week, I will send you the make and take supplies you need to create these items. You will need the stamp set or a similar stamp set in order to make these, but I'm going to send you all the paper products and embellishments to create the projects that we created during that Facebook Live. And for this week, I'm just going to real quickly put this here, and then I'll remind you again at the end. You can visit my store at stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net. And this is the hostess code that you'll use, AJRR7URR at checkout. Now, I'm only requiring a $30 purchase to get the make and takes, but remember, if you want to cash in on the bonus days, you'll need to place a $50 order at that time. But you don't have to if you don't want to. That's perfectly fine. So I'm going to put this hostess code aside for just a minute, and we'll bring it back. So I want to show you the projects that we're going to make today. First of all, we're using the Animal Expedition Designer Series paper, and it is adorable. It features animals, obviously, because it's called Animal Expedition. This piece here has an alligator or crocodile. There's a hippo. There's a piece with just some birds and some greenery. There's a sloth, a rhinoceros, a giraffe, and again that alligator. And then this piece here, there are coordinating framelits that will cut out the rhinoceros and the kangaroo. And I did show a tip on my over on my blog a couple of weeks ago on how to cut out the ones that are going opposite. So you can find that over at stampitwithdebbie.blogspot.com. Or if you leave me a comment, I can link to that in the comments below for you. So as always, the paper on the back is just as beautiful as the front. It just doesn't have as many what I would call whimsical patterns, more solid patterns. And they're very nice, different colors that coordinate with all of the colors on the front of the paper. So this is the cardstock we're going to be using, along with the Animal Outing stamp set and the Animal Friends Thinlits. So let me just put these aside real quick. And I'm going to get the projects to show you what we're going to make today. I have 2 cards and 1 3D project for you. These are the 2 cards, Wild About You, and this one says Welcome Little One. And then this is a box that's held with one of our little binder clips, and inside is a package of animal crackers. These are the ones we had when I was a kid, and when I saw them in the store, I thought that's going to be so adorable to make a project out of them. So that's what we're going to create today. And let me get these back in here and we will get started. Okay, the first one that we're going to create is going to be this Wild About You. And let me grab my supplies really quickly. Okay, we are going to start with a crumb cake card base cut at 8.5 by 5.5, and we've scored at 4 1/4. We're going to take our bone folder and burnish that to make sure we have a good crease. We have 2 pieces of the Designer Series paper cut at 2 inches by 5 1/4. Now one of these is going to get flipped upside down so that we have 2 different designs, so it doesn't matter. I tried to look at the 2 pieces that I had and see which one would kind of stick out with the alligator pattern a little more. So I think I'm going to put this one up on the top. Just going to put a little bit of adhesive on here. And be sure and leave a little border at the top. And then the bottom piece. Now there is going to be a little slight gap here, and that's okay because we have a piece of paper we're putting on there. Just make sure that your 2 outside edges here line up. The ones here. Okay, and now I have a piece of cardstock cut at 3/4 of an inch by 5 1/4. I'm just going to put a little adhesive on that. And we're going to put that right in the center. And I made mine go down a little bit, not evenly covering this. I put it down a little bit so that you could see the alligators a little bit. And now what else you're going to need is, I used the layering circles and the stitched framelits. So this is a circle cut out of Very Vanilla. I have another circle the same size cut out of Call Me Clover. And then I have one from Lemon Lime Twist that's cut with the stitched framelits. And then I also have a piece that's cut at 3/4 of an inch of the designer paper, 3/4 of an inch by 2 inches. And for this piece, I'm just going to cut a little banner out of the end. So how I cut a banner is I cut up in the middle, and then I cut to it, and I cut to it again. Okay, and I'm going to set that piece aside, and now I need the stamp set that says Wild About You, and I also need my Memento black ink. I'm going to ink that up, and hoping to not stick my head in the camera here. I have the Wild About You. Now I'm going to use the leaf. And I need to grab a piece of scrap paper and my Call Me Clover ink. And I'm just going to stamp a couple with this stamp here with a little frog on it. I'm going to stamp a couple leaves on the side. And then we're all done stamping. I'm going to wipe that off real quick so I don't put any of my projects in it. Okay, so before I glue stuff down, I kind of like to look at it and see what it's going to look like before I get it all together. So I'm just going to kind of do that here and see, do I need to adjust anything? Again, I want my alligators to be showing, and I think this is pretty good. I also want this piece to be tucked in just a little bit behind and layering. So that's the first piece that I'm going to put on. So I'm going to take this one off. I'm going to leave this one on here so I can kind of see where it needs to be. Put a little bit of adhesive, and I'm going to stick that on there. The next one I'm going to do is this lemon lime twist. Put that on, and then the Call Me Clover. And that can go right over to the edge. And then this piece, we're going to wait just a minute. So the first thing that I want to do, we're going to use a little bit of this trim, and I'm trying to, the leaf ribbon trim. And if you haven't seen it in the catalog, you have to see it. It is beautiful. It's made out of ribbon material, and I think that it would be really great with any flower cards. And you don't need a whole lot to get a lot of effect. You can see this one, I just tucked a few pieces in here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to turn my greeting piece over, and I'm going to put adhesive around the edges. I'm going to stick that off to the side real quickly. I'm going to take a piece of the trim, and I want to turn this over because I want to make sure that I'm getting it faced right. I'm going to pop that out, and then I'm going to let it come out the other side. And when I use this, I like to cut right up to the end of the last leaf. And then I want one more little piece on here. So I'm going to cut a little piece. And I'm going to cut this little, if that doesn't bother you, then you can leave it on there, but I'm going to cut that little part of the stem off. I suppose that happens in nature where a leaf falls off, but, and then I'm going to just tuck this here. It looks like I need a little more adhesive. Of course, it's everywhere but where I need it to be because it's sticking all over my fingers. So now I have a little coming out the back, some at the top. Now I'm going to put some dimensionals. And just take the backing off of those. And attach this to my card, and then I'm all finished. This one got a little bit long. If you want, you don't have to, but if you would like, you can use a little bit of liquid adhesive to glue these down a little bit. I don't because they're stuck up underneath, but if you feel like they might fall off, then go ahead and do that. So this is our first project, and I'm going to set that aside so I can get what we need for the second project. And this one, I wanted to create something a little bit different. I'm using the Seafoam Green, which is a new color to us, this catalog. And so again, we start with a card base that is 8.5 by 5.5. We're scoring at 4 1/4. We're going to fold it in half and use the bone folder so we can get a really good crease there. I'm going to set this aside for just a minute because we have a layer on top, so we need to cut a piece at 4 by 5 1/4. And I'm going to grab my Big Shot. And this is one of the 3D folders, so we need to take our Big Shot to just the flap one, and we only need one of the clear folders. And on this one, to get a little more texture, you can spritz your paper, but you don't have to. You'll still get the texture on there, but you get a little deeper texture if you spritz the paper. So today I'm not going to. So you're taking your precision plate and you're going to put one clear folder on the top of that, run it through, or not folder, plate, and then you can see you still get the texture, but again, it's going to be a little bit deeper if you do spritz it a little bit with water before you run it through that folder. Let me just set this aside and get my card back here. So we have our card base, and now we have the 4 by 5 1/4. We're going to adhere that directly to our card front. And then we're going to work on the little banner that says "Welcome Little One." So we're going to use the banner punch. This is cut at 1.5 inches by 3 inches. It's Whisper White. And we're going to put it in the punch, and I like to turn it over so that I can just see when the square part of the cardstock has cleared, and then go ahead and punch it. And then I have, I'm going to show you in the stamp set, it's a little bit easier. I have this one here that says "Welcome," and then there's a little line with like a little heart in the middle, and it says "Little One." That's what I'm going to use here. And you want to stamp it towards the bottom of your banner down here so that we can tuck this part up underneath our card. Next, we're going to take a piece of the designer paper, and this one has the animals on the back, so if you would prefer to have animals over a color, this is Calypso Coral. And I'm going to put adhesive on this piece and on my banner because I'm kind of going to put them down all at the same time. I need to make sure that my banner, or my center, sorry, my designer paper is up far enough so that my banner is not running off the edge of the paper. So you also want this banner over far enough so when you put this piece on, it's not overlapping your welcome. So I'm going to put that down, and then I'm going to set the designer paper over it and make sure that it's adhered very well. Okay, the next step is I have another circle from the layering circles, and this is the second from the largest, and I'm going to stamp this cute little rhinoceros on it. I'm going to ink it up with my Memento black ink. And I want to make sure this bird gets in here, and I'm okay with a little bit of him going off the edge, so I'm just going to make sure the bird gets on there. So yeah, his foot went off just a little bit, but I'm okay with that. Next, I want to show you a product called our Stampin' Blends, and I could have easily cut this rhinoceros out of the designer paper using the framelits, and it would have looked like this, and that would have looked just fine on the top or on the front of the card. But I wanted to show you how to use the blender pens. They're very nice. They're alcohol based. I like them because when you're coloring with them, you don't get lines. I'm the kind of person, when I color with markers or crayons, I have to work really hard to not get lines because I like things to look nice and even. So these are perfect for me. The colors I'm using today are Daffodil Delight, and all of these Stampin' Blends markers come individually, but there's a light marker and a dark marker. So this one is Smoky Slate, light and dark, and then this one is Pumpkin Pie, dark, and this is Daffodil Delight. I believe this is dark. So I'm just going to color my bird real quick. And I colored his body in the Daffodil Delight. I'm going to use the pumpkin for his beak and for his feathers. And then I'm going to color the Rhinoceros, I'm first of all going to color a few of his little shaded areas with the dark. And you don't have to color all of them, just a few of them. And I'll show you how they're going to blend in a little bit. So that was the dark that I used first. There's a little debate whether you should use the dark or the light first, and I think it's whatever you feel comfortable with. So now I'm using the light, and I'm just going to start coloring him in. And where I colored before with the dark, you're just going to kind of color in circles, and that will kind of blend it in a little bit, so it leaves it a little bit shaded. And like I said, these Stampin' Blends markers do not leave lines. It's going to give you a smooth colored finish, which I really love. And so I'm just going to finish coloring in here. You can see it's going very quickly, and again, wherever I colored that dark line in, I'm just kind of going in circles to shade it just a little bit. And if you wanted more shading when you were done, you saw that you wanted more shading, you can always go back and put a little more shading and use the lighter color to kind of blend it a little bit. So I'm going to call this good for now. And let's put my scrap paper aside. Now I'm going to take this basic black scallop circle, put a little adhesive on the back of this one, and attach it. And then I'm going to use dimensionals to put this piece on. I love dimensionals. I like how it pops things up to make them pop up off the card and make it not look flat. So just take the backing off of those and then offset it just a little, as I said, so it's not covering up your welcome banner. And then this project is all done. So you could change the greeting if you wanted to, if you didn't need a bunch of baby cards because you don't know anyone having a baby. You could definitely change it to any of the greetings or a different greeting if you have a different stamp set. So let's get on to the last project. And again, this is the 3D box here with the animal crackers. And this one is going to take a little bit of scoring, but not too bad. So you're going to start with a piece. This is shaded spruce, and this is one more of our brand new designer paper, or not designer papers, cardstock colors and ink colors in the new catalog. This one is cut to 7 by 10.5. Now I'm going to get my scoreboard. So we need to do a little bit of scoring. And on this short end, which is the 7-inch end, we're going to score at 1 inch, and we're going to score at 6 inches. We're going to turn it to the long end, and we're going to score at 1 1/4, 5 1/2, and 6 1/2. And then that's it. Okay, the other thing that actually we'll do the scoring on this, and then I'll show you some other things. So this piece on the edge where you scored 1 1/4, you're going to have 2 little squares right here. You want to cut those off. We're going to cut those off before we burnish our score lines. Okay, so you're going to end up like this. This is the flap that's going to come back on this end. I'm going to use my envelope punch board, and I want to round those corners. So if you use this back part, I don't necessarily have to do it right at this moment, but sometimes I forget. So it's better for me if I do it right now. So now you have rounded corners on your closing tab. Now, this piece of paper is 7 inches wide, and your big shot will only take 6 inches. So we have to cut the hole that's in the front of this to see through to our animal crackers. We need to cut that hole before we assemble the box. So before we even fold these edges in, we're going to add a piece of designer paper here in the center. And this is cut at 4 by 4 3/4. So I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive right here and put it in the center. Okay, now the idea is we are going to cut a hole right here. But the first thing that we need to do is we're going to now take our bone folder and bring these sides in. Whenever I cut with my framelits, I like to cut on the back side because it sometimes will leave a little crease in the paper. So we're gonna cut this on the back side. So now that we have this designer paper on, it's going to cut a hole right through both of these pieces. So I'm gonna bring my Big Shot over. And we have the traditional, what we call a sandwich. We have our platform, we have a clear plate, and we're going to turn this so that these flaps right here are folded in towards the designer paper and just put it straight down. Now we're going to take our circle framelit and we're going to center it in that space. Put our clear plate on very carefully. And run this through. And as you can see, it pops our center out there. I'm gonna put the Big Shot aside. So now that that's cut out, and I see mine is a little crooked, and I'm not even gonna worry about it because once I get the other things on it, it's not gonna be a big deal at all. Let's fold on these score lines here so we don't forget, and then everything else should be folded the other way. So we're going to fold our little tab in here. Now we're on the back side. We need to put a piece of clear window sheet there. I've cut that to 3.5 by 3.5, and I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive here, and then I'm also, I know it's really hard for you to see, but the 4 corners of the window sheet, I'm going to put it in each of the 4 corners. And then I'm just going to bring it to my card piece, my box piece, and secure it on the back side. Okay, so now you can look through the front. It's got a window, so when you look in, you'll see your animal crackers. Now we need to do a little bit of cutting. In the center of your side that you did 1 inch, you're going to see this little square here. You want to cut up to that score line, so you're making a little tab. Don't detach it. You just want to make a little tab. So turn it around, and we're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. And so now you have 2 tabs right here. The first thing that we want to do is put a little, you want very strong adhesive. So I'm using Fast Fuse, which actually has been discontinued by the company. So what I would recommend is either the liquid, Tombow liquid adhesive, and you just have to hold that for a minute and it will secure very permanently. Or you can use the tear and tape, which I'm going to use on the outside flap. So I just used a little bit of Fast Fuse here. So when I make a box, this is the front of our box. I always like this tab to go to the back of the box so that the rough edge isn't showing. So I'm going to make sure and fold these in so they have a really good crease. And I'm going to bring that little tab up and secure it to that back 1 inch tab. I'm going to do the same exact thing on this one. I'm sorry, I know there's a lot in the way. So the little tab, this is the back piece, not with the window, that's the front. This is the back piece, and it's just going to attach right on there and hold it securely. If you're using the liquid adhesive, you're gonna have to hold it for just a minute, but then it will give you a good secure hold afterwards. So for this flap here, I am going to use the tear and tape. And I really like the tear and tape because it's just as the name says, you can tear it off, put it wherever you need it, and it's ready to go. So I'm going to put 2 strips on each of these tabs on the inside of the box. If you get it a little bit long, once you pull it off, and I see this one's going to be just a little, you can either tear it off, or I'll show you in a minute what I'm going to do with that one because it did get a little bit long. And then this one goes to the outside. So let me peel this one off first so that I can show you real quick. And if you have trouble getting this off, I sometimes will take my bone folder or my fingernail and kind of scratch it down, but you can also use your piercing tool to peel it off. So you can see this one's a little bit too long. I'm just going to fold it back over on itself and it will be perfectly fine. You don't need to tear it off or anything. And I am going to remove all 4 sides or all 4 tabs of adhesive at once. If you feel more comfortable, you can do 2 at a time. And this one is wanting to stick on there. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to bring it over, and I will tell you, tear and tape is not very forgiving. So you want to look, if you bend this down, you can see where the crease is down here, and you just want to bring it over and line your edge up, and then make sure that it's very secure. You're going to do the same thing with the other side. Bring it over, line it up, just make sure it's very secure. Now on the inside of the box, you'll see that this one side tab is a little longer. So you can either just leave it, or if it bothers you, and when you're making it, you'll see there's just a little, it's hard to see because it's all the same color, but there's just about a 1/4 inch difference there. And that's so that the back will close securely without buckling the box. So for this one, I am going to just go ahead and cut it off. But if you left it on, it really wouldn't matter either. So what we need to do is squeeze this to kind of make a little bit of a bag. So whatever works best for you, I'm just going to kind of squeeze it in the middle and then fold it real tightly so that it makes a crease to hold the bag. It's kind of like a bag instead of a box. Now we want to turn it over and do the same thing on this side. Not all the way down to the bottom because it'll buckle it and then it won't sit down. So now it kind of looks like a bag. Here's where we want to put our animal crackers inside. And I'm just going to flatten them out a little bit. Put them in the box so that they're as flat as they can be. Now I'm going to set that just off to the side for just a minute. So I did, for this one, I cut these out of the designer paper using the framelit. And another one that I made earlier, I wanted to show you because there is no framelit, but this one I used the giraffe and the sloth, and I just cut around those, and they do cut out pretty easily. So for this one today, I did just cut out the kangaroo and the rhinoceros. So we're going to, I'm going to set those aside for 1 minute. I'm going to get this little piece of paper, cut it 3/4 inch by 2, and my Call Me Clover ink pad. And then I want the stamp that says, "Thank you big time." I'm going to stamp off just a little bit to the right because I want a banner right here on the edge. So I'm going to ink that up, leave a little bit of room to the left. Close my ink up there. So I'm going to, because I don't want this much room on the end, I'm going to cut that off a little, and then again cut a banner. And this piece is ready. And then also, I wanted to show you how I close this. Is we have some in color mini binder clips, and they come in all the new for this year in colors. That's the Lovely Lipstick, the Pineapple Punch, the Grapefruit Grove, the Blueberry Bushel, and the Call Me Clover. And today I'm using the Call Me Clover. So I have our box here. I'm just going to close the lid down. And I think for this one, the other one I just clipped the thank you on, but I'm going to just put a little adhesive. Put that in the corner. That way if they take the clip off to open the box, the greeting will still be on there. And then I have that on there. So next what we need to do is put our kangaroo and our rhinoceros on here. So I'm gonna make the kangaroo a little bit higher. Put some adhesive on the rhino. And I'm gonna make him just a little bit lower. And then I also cut out with the framelit that comes in the Animal Friends framelits, these little leaves. Oops, they have gotten tangled. These little leaves here, and I'm just going to use a little bit of liquid adhesive to attach those. Now, I think that I have told you this before, but this here is Stampin' Up adhesive. It is the Tombow multi-purpose adhesive. I purchased this on Amazon because it's got a much smaller point here and it lets me get into smaller places without making a mess with my glue. And the bottles come empty. I just put the glue in it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive in a few spots. And I'm going to tuck it back behind them. And I'm going to put three of them on there. I just think that they add a little bit. You could also cut out some of the greenery with the frog on it that comes in the designer paper if you want to. And there's that one. And then one more. I think that I'm going to put this one up on the tag. Kind of offset a little bit. So there it is. You could use these for a little party favor for a birthday party, or personally I liked theme parties any time of the year, so I would use these any time of the year. There are those and our 2 cards that we created. Again, if you would like to receive the materials to create these all these 3 projects, all you need to do is go to my store at stampitwithdebbie.stampinup.net and place at least a $30 order and use this host code here, AJRR7URR at checkout, and I will mail these to you, the Make and Take projects to you. Again, don't forget, it's bonus days, so if you place a $50 order, Stampin' Up! Will send you a $5 coupon directly to use in September off any merchandise that you choose. I appreciate so much you stopping by today to see my live video, and I hope that you will visit my blog at stampitwithdebbie.blogspot.com, and I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day and your week. Thanks for stopping by.